Hey everyone, welcome! Today we're going to dig into an ancient secret for a garden that doesn't just grow, it thrives. It's a technique that turns your little vegetable patch into a bustling, cooperative community. Let's get our hands dirty and explore the world of companion planting.
But first, let's talk about a question I know so many of us have asked. You do everything by the book, right? You water, you weed, you give your plants the best food, but still something's just off. Why does that happen?
I bet this slide looks a little too familiar. One day everything's fine. The next, bam, pests are everywhere. Or some weird disease starts spreading from plant to plant. Or maybe your plants just look kinda sad and droopy, and your harvest is, well, a letdown. It is so frustrating.
But what if the solution wasn't something you buy in a bottle? What if the secret was actually in the plants themselves? Well, that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, the good neighbor secret.
This secret is called companion planting. It's this absolutely brilliant and ancient idea where you grow specific plants next to each other because they actually help each other out. Seriously, think of it like you're building the perfect neighborhood right there in your own backyard.
So how does this actually work? Is it some kind of garden magic? Not at all. It's just pure biology. Let's get into the science behind these amazing plant friendships.
Okay, so these garden friendships really work in three main ways. First, you've got pest control. Some plants, like basil, have a really strong smell that bugs just hate. Second, there's nutrient sharing, and this part is so cool. Plants like beans team up with special bacteria in the soil to literally pull nitrogen, which is a super important plant food, right out of the air and put it back into the soil for their hungry neighbors. And third, physical support. A tall, sturdy cornstalk can act as a living trellis for a climbing bean to grow up on. It's like living architecture.
Now for the really exciting part. You know, there are tons of combinations out there, but some pairings are just so effective they've become legendary. Let's meet some of the garden's most famous power couples.
And first up, we have the absolute rock star trio of the garden, the tomato team. If you only try one of these strategies this year, make it this one. Here's why this team is just so powerful. Everybody has a job. The basil, with its strong scent, tells pests like that awful tomato hornworm to stay away. Meanwhile, the marigolds are working underground. They actually release a substance from their roots that's toxic to tiny little worms called nematodes that can wreck your tomato roots. And here's the bonus that gardeners have sworn by for ages. Planting basil nearby seems to make your tomatoes taste even better. Okay, next, let's look at a partnership built on mutual defense. I want you to meet the Bodyguards, carrots and onions. These two protect each other from their #1 enemies. This is just so clever. The carrot rust fly finds carrots by their smell. But when you plant onions right next to them, that super strong onion smell acts like a cloaking device. It completely hides the carrot scent and the fly gets confused. And here's the best part. It works both ways. The carrot scent helps hide the onions from the onion fly. It's a perfect bodyguard system. Our final power couple is really more like a family. It's the Three Sisters, a truly brilliant agricultural system developed by Native American peoples centuries and centuries ago. The way this system works together is just pure genius. First, the corn grows tall and strong, making a natural pole. Then, the beans climb up the corn stalks for support, and all the while, their roots are adding that valuable nitrogen into the soil, feeding both the corn and the squash. And finally, the squash spreads out its big leaves across the ground, creating a living mulch that keeps the soil moist and stops weeds from growing. It's a perfect, self-sustaining little ecosystem. You know, not all good neighbors work by repelling pests. Some take one for the team. This is the special role of what we call a trap crop, a plant that makes the ultimate sacrifice. It really all comes down to this one simple truth. Aphids, which are a huge pest for plants like kale and cabbage, find nasturtium flowers absolutely irresistible. So if you plant a row of nasturtiums nearby, you're essentially setting up a decoy. The aphids will swarm the nasturtiums and leave your main crops alone.
But of course, just like in any neighborhood, not everybody gets along. And knowing which plants to keep far apart from each other is every bit as important as knowing which ones to bring together.
This right here is probably the most common mistake new gardeners make. Onions, garlic, and that whole family are fantastic for a lot of plants, but they are terrible for beans and peas. They actually release a substance into the soil that harms the good bacteria living on the bean roots, which can really stunt their growth. And here are a few other feuds to steer clear of.
Keep your tomatoes away from your potatoes and corn. Why? Because they all get the same diseases and attract the same pests, so planting them together is basically an open invitation for trouble. And then there's fennel. Think of fennel as the antisocial loner of the garden. It actually releases chemicals that stop other plants from growing well. My best advice? Just give fennel its own pot, far away from everyone else.
Okay, I know that was a lot to take in. Friends, enemies, bodyguards, sacrifices. So to make things a whole lot easier, we've put together a handy little cheat sheet to help you with your garden planning.
This little chart is going to be your go-to guide. Let's say you're planting tomatoes. You just look at the tomato row and you'll see your friends are basil and carrots, but your enemies are potatoes and corn. Or maybe you're planting beans. You'll see corn and squash are great buddies, but you've got to keep them away from onions and garlic. It's just a simple way to plant a really harmonious garden bed.
So what's the big key takeaway from all this? Honestly, it's just this. Start small. You do not need to memorize every single combination overnight. Just try 1 or 2 of these power couples this year. Plant some marigolds with your tomatoes or put your carrots next to your onions. Just watch what happens and learn as you go. Because that's the real beauty of gardening, isn't it? It's all just one big, wonderful experiment. So that leaves just one last question for you to think about as you're dreaming about your own garden plot. Which good neighbors are you going to introduce this season?